Hey everyone, Nick Savage here. Got next part of the chapter of Us Legendary Gods. So if you like what you've been hearing, like, follow, all that stuff. If you want to pick it up, support an indie bookstore. Go there, have them order it, get it on their shelves and stuff. And always support indie stores. A few feet from her desk, behind an overhead projector, stands Linda Espinosa in a well-worn, tie-dyed Pink Floyd shirt and strategically torn jeans. Biology teacher in high school boys' shower fantasy. Yes, she was modeled after one of the teachers at my high school back in the day. Her short stature diametrically opposes the boundless energy possibly stored in the remnants of her more rebellious years, her studded belt and leather boots. Yeah, but unlike this character, the teacher that I was thinking of when I wrote this didn't actually kill anyone, though she did get busted doing some pretty bad stuff. Short stature diametrically opposes boundless energy possibly stored in the remnants of her more rebellious years, her studded belt and leather boots. The perfect mix of high intellect and classic beauty in her brown eyes and long flowing light brown hair bring alive the otherwise few sleepy male heads in the class. She is an athletically built woman who academically engages all her students in the classroom and runs a mean women's varsity soccer team outside the classroom. Looking out toward her 24 honor students with a smile plastered on her face, she twirls an infinity pendant around her neck. Take note. Most Harvard and Yale dreamers in here, dressed in pressed jeans, polo shirts, button downs, and slacks. Connor and Jack sit as standouts among the rest, united in their caring more about baseball than bio. No matter how the students dress or where their priorities lie, they all have notebooks open and pens at the ready. Connor stares at the UV pictures projected onto the whiteboard, a side-by-side comparison of a girl without makeup. On the left, she appears as humans would view her. On the right is her picture as seen with UV spectrum. Freckles, fine lines, and shallow arteries hidden beyond the abilities of normal human eyes. The details of the human body concealed within the spectrum of ultraviolet. That is actually based on actual real photograph. I didn't put it in the book because it's not a fucking picture book, but it is a real photograph that I looked at and studied the side-by-side comparison of. So feel free to Google. Data and a message filled with exposed whiteboard that borders the UV photograph. 50 questions, 30 minutes. After reading the test info, Connor looks back at the pictures and the two images look identical. The photo on the left also shows the freckles, fine lines, and shallow arteries as the one on the right. He continues staring at the matching pictures that not even seconds ago were different. He squints his eyes, giving them a good rub before widening and blinking them clear, but the images still look the same. Again, I don't do women's voices. Of the total light spectrum, humans can see 84%. This picture, for example, Linda Espinosa points to the projected photo, is how bees see us. Of course, if it weren't for UV photography, we wouldn't be able to experience this. Similar statistics go for audio range as well. We are all familiar with dog whistles. The high-pitched range that properly calibrated whistle outputs can only be heard by a canine. 20 to 20,000 hertz, that's what we hear. The range of canines is much higher. Who can tell us where the other 16% of the light spectrum starts? She looks out at the crowd and sees Connor rubbing his eyes. Connor? Distracted by the tricks his eyes were playing, he missed her question. Yes, not the answer. Do you know the start of the light spectrum? Sorry, waking up still, he says, faking a yawn. Infrared are the lowest waves of the light spectrum that we know of. Ultraviolet are the highest. Jack rolls his eyes at Connor's response. He leans over in his chair and whispers, Dude, bro, really? We only have 30 minutes for the test. Connor tosses Jack a laugh, then looks back at the board and the projected images. The two projected photos are back to being different. The left one looks like a standard photograph and the other with the special UV filter. Linda raises an eyebrow as she grabs the test papers off her desk and begins passing them out face down. The first student flips it over, but is quickly met with a playful whack upside the head with the other test papers. Not until I say so, you know the rules. She turns her attention back to Connor. What do you mean? Just because science hasn't found anything beyond the UV and infrared spectrums doesn't mean those begin and end the spectrum. His feeling of self-satisfaction dissolves when he sees Jack, forehead in hand, giving a minute shake of his head in disbelief. Jack eyes Connor. Dude, we aren't getting out of the test by, well, you're stalling. Come on. Connor concedes fighting good fight against the inevitable test and sighs. Just procrastinating, Mrs. Z. Linda smiles as she finishes passing out the test. Maybe one day you can elaborate for us. Jack interjects in an attempt to move things along. Well, stupid theory, Missy. Trust me, you don't want to know. He finishes in his natural tonality of increasing pitch and volume as he drags out his sentences, a marking of his lack of self-confidence and social awkwardness. She turns back to the class as she takes a seat at her desk. Thank you, Professor Jack. Her eyes turn to the rest of the students, bring the point around. You'll have 30 minutes to complete your test. She eyes the second hand of the clock, counting down the last seconds until it reaches a full minute, starting now. Connor flips his test over and scribbles his name and today's date, September 5th, 2017, across the top. Connor glances up to see a few students scribbling out answer after answer as others fumble through. Jack seems to have started the test with ease. Linda sidelines a stack of papers she needs to grade for the moment so she can watch her students, whose eyes stray from their test. No energetic smile across her face, only eyes piercing each teenager as they navigate the exam. The minutes tick by, but not nearly fast enough for Connor. Of the 30 allotted, only 15 have passed as he turns the page to question 50. Before answering, he sees question 51. 51. Given a 3-gallon bucket and a 5-gallon bucket, assuming no spillage, how do you get 4 gallons? Anyone who's seen the movie Die Hard with a Vengeance. Die Hard with a Vengeance? Die Hard with a Vengeance knows the answer to that because, well, him and Samuel L. Jackson did it. However, this was also on a test in high school because my teacher thought no one had seen the movie. Without lifting her head from the test, he eyes the board to reread the words in dry erase. 50 questions. He fills out the answer number 50 and rises from his seat. Jack shoots him a worrisome look as if he's not going to pass the test. Connor sees Jack racing through. He smiles and nods his head as he hands his test to Linda. A radiant smile crosses her lips as she takes the test from his hands. As Connor returns to his seat, Linda opens the test to the last page and sees he did not fill out the question 51. She looks at him for a moment to find him slouched back in his chair, counting the seconds until the bell rings. She continues working her way back to question 1, skimming his answers as she goes. With a few minutes left in both class and the exam, Jack turns to the final page. Some of the middle questions slowed the fast start he had to the test. Jack sees question 51 and does the same double take to the board that Connor did. Quick, quiet snaps possess his fingers in an unsuccessful attempt to catch Connor's attention. Unsure of what to do, he scribbles in a guess for the final answer, or for the final question before handing in his test. Again, Linda flips to the back of the test. She smiles as she sees Jack's response to 51. Linda continues to make her way through the rest of the test, skimming each answer as she did for Connor's. Jack, making his way back to the desk, notices the janitor peering into the class through the open door. Jack stares at the vertical scar that runs above and below the janitor's right eye. I know my left from right. He wonders if any rumors are true, that the janitor is an ex-Navy SEAL and hiding here in witness protection, or if he got the scar while being attacked by a large animal, or if the truth is stranger than any of those. Jack watches as the janitor runs a plastic black comb through his short-cropped, black and slightly salted, unkempt hair. Jack continues watching the janitor push his mop around outside the door. Jack taps Connor, pointing in a not-so-subtle manner to the janitor, who seems to be leering into the classroom as he mops, eyeballing the pictures and info on the board more than the floor. What's up with Raymond? Whispers Connor. What's up with Raymond? Whispers Connor. Who's Raymond? Asks Jack. Connor swipes at Jack's pointing finger, pushing it down. For all the finger pointing you're doing and rumors that circulate about him, take a second to read his name. It's sewn into his jumper. Jack shrugs as they watch Raymond, the janitor, dip down the hall, pulling his mop and bucket to the cafeteria as the bell rings. The deluge of students, of students drowns Raymond and his work from sight. That's what happens when you only read words and you don't hear them out loud a lot. Sometimes you forget how to fucking pronounce them. So the number 51 becomes a theme throughout at least the first couple books. And so that is something that starts here and then continues on, and until it's made obvious who she's married to, this is your first clue. But again, like, follow, share, all that jazz, and Us Legendary Gods, West Heaven and Dead, Book 1.